Howdy, folks. How we all doing? See that? I stole your line over there.
He said howdy. I got so happy.
I am back with the Brother Bear, the Highwayman himself, TJ. As we all know, yes, you're looking pretty cutie over there.
Thank you.
But as we all know, Bandai decided to drop big news last night that there will be a new ban list coming out August 23rd. It will be announced probably on some live stream that they typically do, and then the effects of the ban list will go live, or I guess the ban list will be effective is a better way of putting it, September 1st, which is going to be just in time for the North American Wave 1 finals. Interestingly, all the other finals, it sounds like, will be taking place before the ban list goes into effect, or at least a lot of the big events around the world will be happening before the ban list. So it'll be interesting to see how the Nats sort of results shape up on our side of things, because this will be like the first big event post ban list, I believe. And we're here today to kind of just give you guys some thoughts about what we are anticipating to be on the list. Not every single one of these cards that we're going to talk about tonight will be like what we think. We just figured we'd go over all the good candidates, right? Not every single one of those are like surefire hits. We figured just talk about stuff from each archetype and give you ideas. Yeah.
In the same vein, too, we're also not hoping that all of these cards are on the list.
That's a good way to put it. Yes.
Yeah. This isn't us saying, like, we think that every single card that we're showing right now is going to be on the list. Where it's like Ben said, they're candidates. They're just candidates. It's just cards that we are pretty sure have a chance to finally show up on the list. That's all. Correct.
Because, I mean, we're going to get a bunch of speculation videos. Now is the season for it. We'll probably do a reaction video as well once the actual list gets released, so be on the lookout for it. I will drop a survey link in the video description along in our Discord with like sort of what we did last time when there was a ban list about like what you folks think the ban list will look like to be and what cards you think you'll see on it. Because I think it'd be kind of cool to see what our community thinks and then what the actual list looks like, and we can kind of compare the two. So I'll drop a link to that down in the video description along with our Discord, so please do check it out. Thank you all for tuning in as always. We appreciate you, and without further ado, let's talk about some cards here.
Yeah.
With this full screen. But yeah, so what we did was we kind of separated by archetype here. So first up, we kind of have cards from the Guilmon Slop or the Guilmon Growlmon engine, which is probably the big bogeyman of the deck that probably has like the most cards that could feasibly get hit and nobody would really be surprised, right? Why don't you take it away as sort of a Growlmon connoisseur?
Yeah, as someone who played a lot of Growl, and it's funny because if you remember back when we did the tier list for BT21, when we were doing the prediction tier list, I think I was like the first person out of our group, at least. I know I was an early bird just in general. The second I saw the cards get revealed, I'm sure there's other people as well.
Yeah.
But like I was like, this has potential. This is scary with these new pieces. Like this is like Megidra has the way to go. Like it has everything it needs. Now, mind you, Megidra's kind of like the boy's been tossed from the deck mostly. Now people just turn it into just sort of a Growl Loop Rush, which is why we have the cards you see listed. We have the Rush Guilmon in there from EX4 because this card's just sort of, it's been in talks, and something just on that note as well. All of these cards are cards that we've talked about with like other content creators and other friends and people from our locals. This isn't just like me and Ben's like personal opinions necessarily. This is like we've gathered data from what we've seen and people we've talked to.
Yeppers.
Yes. So yeah, the Rush Guil's on there just because it's while typically you can make the argument that once you see one, that's all you really need to see, and you're good to keep looping it typically because of Growl X. It just sort of like there is plenty of instances where you can get multiple out on the board, and it can just threaten game, right? Like there's been plenty of times where I'm sure both of us, because we both play the deck, where like you'll loop the same one from trash, and then you'll just like finish game by hard playing one from hand and going for game like that. So having multiple copies of it, just making it more accessible and easier to find, or just having more ways to utilize it, like multiples of it, is just kind of scary. Growl X is obviously just sort of like he's a card that I think pretty much everybody in the world that plays Digimon is like, yeah, it's probably gonna be on the list. I will say, me personally, I hope it's not, because I don't want Gallant to pay for the sins of
I was about to
Growl's
say, I
loop.
think hitting Growl X, to be devil's advocate, once, as we get along some of the other lists too, right? Or other decks to talk about, we will address like decks that may come up as contenders now that some of these big hitters are a little bit more nerfed. And Gallant, I feel like, could be one of them for sure. And you could argue by hitting Growl, you could also theoretically maybe nerf Gallant a little bit. But to your point, I agree. I feel like if you nerf it that much, it's probably going to be back to a very tough spot. I think it'd be overkill for it. Would definitely, more than just nerf Gallant, I think it would hurt it a lot more than a lot of people would think.
Yeah, it's a lot of consistency.
Yeah.
It's a whole extra memory game that can kind of make the difference oftentimes in your deletions, and it gives Gallant that sort of really threatening recursion to constantly keep a body on board if they get deleted, right? Because you can get bounce protection from War Growl X, but Growl X was your means of recurring your body if you got deleted.
Right,
and now, so if they just pass memory over and delete you, that's tough bears.
True.
That's tough. Sometimes you just won't be able to play anything out, and then you just have to start from scratch, and that's it hurts. But admittedly, within the engine, it just enables you to constantly keep cycling out rush Guilmons or other Guilmons in general and other rush strategies to just beat your opponent down within a single turn and just OTK typically.
Right.
And like, you can also make the same argument that you can for Guilmon, where like once you see the one, you're kind of just good to go because you do have means of cycling. But because your only real consistent way of cycling it is the Gigimon promo. If you're not always going to have that egg in the stack when you do the cycling, so it would cut it out a lot. It would definitely, I think, neuter Growl Loop pretty hard.
Yeah.
I don't think the deck would be able to exist anymore. And then finally, from that whole little schloop, Grav Crush. Grav Crush is just like an option. It's another memory gain option, right?
I've come to hate this card so much.
Yeah, it's nutty because the thing that it's become is like, well, yes, it used to have that drawback of, okay, well, if you don't finish the game in that turn, you're going to lose, you're going to pass your opponent a bunch of memory. And that drawback still technically exists. But because Growl Loop has become so efficient at making sure it ends the game, and other decks too have utilized it as well, right? Like we saw it in Red Hybrid, we've seen it in like War Gray OTK and stuff like that too. It's just a card that's always going to present a problem for any deck that can make the most out of a turn. So it needs to go like the other memory gain options. I think the only one that is actually okay is Parabolic Junk.
Yeah.
Simply because your opponent can just choose not to play into your strategy, and then you don't get the memory out of it, and it's wasted. Like it's not instant value
until
the
black archetype has a consistent way of popping itself.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a good world where like that's a problem.
Right. I think realistically, the only deck that could utilize it right now effectively would maybe be like Dark Knight or Abydo. Yeah. With like, well, Abydo you don't even pop your own stuff in Abydo necessarily. You can redirect things, which can help. Sure. But like Dark Knight, you pop yourself a lot. So I think like a black purple deck, we could see Parabolic do some things because purple likes deletion and trash play. Yeah. So maybe something there, but we don't have anything like that yet. So Parabolic, I think is fine for the moment.
And the game has become too explosive where sometimes you really just need. The difference between having set your opponent to 1 versus 3 used to be like, fine, you go into like a level 4 or a level 5. Now the difference between choking a 1 versus having just 3 memory could be enough to play a Rush Gila and start to pop off, right? Like it's one of those things.
Win a game
yeah, exactly. So, like you said, I mean, the end of turn lose 2 memory has become a little bit out of date / just irrelevant now because most good players will really just save your Grav Crushes till the final play. Once your opponent plays like Grav Crush ×2, it's like, I think I just lose. Yeah. Like you pretty much are accepting defeat there.
Yeah. All these cards are just cards that can present future problems for any support that like Gallant / Megidra archetype gets in the future. And like as long as like Growl and Geel exist like full power, that like they just present a broken bottom end for a lot of decks. Like the fact that archetype is basically getting like abused like Cerberus Engine was back in the day, where people are starting to run like Lilithmon top end stuff in it. Yeah. People are starting to run it with Machine to help put cards in the trash. Like it's going everywhere, and it just goes to show that it's the engine itself is just too efficient. It starts
like if Garurumon X Antibody got hit, there's no reason this card can't potentially be hit for Growl.
Yeah, but it's funny because it's like they wore like the Greymon X was too much, right? So they hit that, and then they're like, okay, let's for some reason turn it up to 11 and give them the Guru X.
Yeah.
And then they basically turned it down a notch, right? Where like, oh, you don't gain memory, but you play out of body, and oh, you draw a little bit less, but it's still like it has a memory gain inherit, and it's still just an insane card. Like it's just crazy. So,
but we've talked a lot about Megidra. I mean, it's a huge part of the meta, right? If you look at the past like 3 months, essentially, it's been a very Megidra, Gil loop, Growlmon loop sort of heavily defined meta. So I mean, there's a lot of talking points for it for sure. We'll kind of briefly touch upon the rest of the meta here, mainly comprised of Sakuya and Royal Knights, right? So Sakuya's up next with Sakuya X as our first sort of card for discussion. I mainly included this card for that like restand potential. I think that helps enables a lot of explosive plays when you pair it with cards like, for example, Ruin Mode or Valderarm, especially. Playing out a rush token is also, we've seen it a lot where Sakuya players just need to get to that rush token. Even if they have a wiped board, scrambled a rookie that can't swing, as long as you can get into that rush token, you're in a good spot. And we're very efficient at doing so. So I threw it on there. I think there's a world where it definitely survives because, you know, most Sakuya lists will run it at like a 2 of anyway. So I don't think it's like one of those cards where it's like, oh, if you limit it to 1, big change, right? Like from 2 to 1 isn't like a huge problem. Rika was one that I figured maybe a little bit more of a potential one just because it's so vital to the deck. Having a 3-cost searcher that lets you just gain memory every time you basically proc any one of your option inheritables, lets you pick up multiple pieces as well, whether it's a Digimon piece or an option card, is really good. Yes, it whiffs on scrambles and trainings, but your plugins are still a very key component to the deck, and it just synergizes very well with whenever you use a option card. I think if it said when you use a plugin, I think that might have made it a little bit more reeled in. But the fact that you say option card is a little cracked.
I will say I'm remembering now there was one thing, and the only thing that I think I think we'll see Rika be left alone is only because we've already seen Sakuya do stuff without Rika.
Correct. There was a list in Niagara that won with just pure boost. So I mean, it's definitely possible to win without Rika.
But it's still like it's so much gas.
Right. And speaking of gas, we got the plugin S, which allows you to kind of digivolve here. One card I did forget to put in now that I'm kind of looking at it here. Let me see if I can actually just add it on. Would be BT17 Talmon. I forgot to put that on here because I think he's, of all the Sakuya cards, I think he is probably the one that's, I think makes the most sense when it comes to hitting Sakuya. Being able to use an option card for free on or reduce cost by 2, which more often than not is free with this deck, lets you scramble into your top end for free, right? Talmon's inheritable as well. When you swing, can play out another plugin card, which is typically how you go from a Sakuya scramble into Valderarm for free, right? Or Sakuya X scramble into Valderarm free, you know, level 5 or level 7 essentially. And you can do shenanigans that way, I think is what makes the deck not just memory efficient, but also super aggressive. So, I mean, if there was a card that I think makes the most sense to hit out of Sakuya, I think it's Talmon. It's interesting because we will be getting an advanced starter deck with Sakuya where we're only going to get more support. So I do think they have to kind of tread carefully where you don't necessarily want to, like, completely kill the deck unless you have a plan to bring it back into some sort of relevance moving forward. But you also don't want to ignore it because if you give it way too much support, then it's going to be another like Growlmon, Guilmon loop problem again. Yeah,
it's going to have too many options to like do its thing. It's like we were saying, like there's a good chance they maybe just hit some stuff to like try and help sell the advanced decks because right now it's hard to warrant any sort of argument to adjust how Sakuya is built right now because it's already so efficient at what it does. So it's going to be curious to see what they do because like even if they hit any of these pieces, right? If they hit the plugin, if they hit Rika, if they hit Sakuya X, Tau, or even like Ruin Mode for that matter, because it's gets abused in here most typically. like there's still other good pieces in Sakuya to utilize. They're just not as
Right.
crazy efficient, so it
Right.
makes you just have to work for it a little bit more, which
Right.
or there's more of a drawback to them, like the Ace, for example.
I was about to say, I think Tau Ace is a good example, right? Because if you hit Taumon, you probably run more Tau Aces in the deck. Because
Yeah.
most decks are running maybe 1 or 2 tops. You probably now run like the full 3 or 4 of Tau Ace, which still lets you do what you need to do. It's just if there's a clapback play and your opponent can either strip the source or get rid of it, then they can kind of hit you back, which I think is
Yeah.
what you need against playing against Sakuya. You need that big clapback play.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's really hard to, and if they're able to just explode it, because like I think RB actually said it best in like our chat earlier, where his like the thing he said about Sakuya is that the problem with Sakuya is that it does too many things for free or too many things too efficiently to then do things even more efficiently or for free or plus off of them.
Yeah,
like it's like you basically, the second you go into Taumon, the rest of your evos from then on are basically free.
Right.
And you go all the way from Tau to Sakuya X to Ruin mode. And then you typically don't spend any actual memory. You typically just gain back everything you spent, which is not okay. it's not how
I mean, it's
not
very
how it should
much
work.
like the Growlmon loop, right? Where the memory gauge has been abused far too much with both decks, where it's, you know, the cool resource system that we had has basically been just a formality for these two. And to just kind of touch upon Ruin mode real fast, we all know what it does. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Being able to lock your opponent out of the game for potentially 2 turns is just annoying, right? Like at this point in the game, 2 turns out, you basically have lost. If you don't play at all for 2 turns, it's over. And that's basically what Ruin mode has allowed you to do.
Yeah, and it's a card that's always in discussion. It's a top end that will always just threaten that possibility of like it could become like Bandai has to prep to play around it, because if they make any line too efficient or gain too much memory, it just gives the potential for Ruin mode to be too lethal.
Right.
Of a control piece. Like it's just I can't imagine it's a fun thing to design around.
Right.
So I feel like that's more than enough warrant for it to be restricted to 1, or even just flat out banned potentially in the future. Obviously, they've only really receiving bannings for things that are truly broken or like loops, but you know.
For sure.
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
On that note too, of Ruin mode, unless you have something else you wanted to say about Ruin mode.
You're all you.
Okay, I was gonna say also, I think it's just worth discussing Valderarm for a brief moment.
Sure.
To just say, I think there's a chance that we could also see Valderarm get like choice restricted from like BT17 Tau and Sakuya X if they don't get hit. Like that could be the hit. You know what I mean?
Right. No,
that's
absolutely.
typically what gives Sakuya lethal, is Valder swinging for 2 checks on suspending, and then swinging 2 more,
and taking away your on plays as well, locking down bodies and stuff.
Yeah, just basically giving you no real like comeback potential typically if they respond in the correct way. So
totally for sure. But yeah, I mean, I think that wraps it up for Sakuya. Last of the quote-unquote like big 3, right, would be Royal Knights. This is a deck that is gonna continue getting support with future sets, as they have already talked about, I believe, with what, BT23, and you know, it's
we know 23 is the other half of our Royal Knights that we didn't get in 22.
Right.
So, and just off of what we've seen in 22, there's a couple of good cards in there that work really well.
Right. Like particularly Leopardmon Ace is a really good card for this deck. Lets you play out cards like this Omekamon here from BT20, which, you know, I'm not entirely convinced he's like a bannable offense or a restrictable offense. You know, I think a deck like Royal Knights, yes, it's gotten really aggressive. It has a lot of support, but if you are kind of slow to set up, this is still a good like safety net, or like a life. It's like a flotation device card, where like this is sort of like your Hail Mary play. It is a good last lifeline. I think that's the word I was looking for Royal Knights. It does feel bad when you like hit a Last Guardian out of security and Omeka comes out and then they get a free lifeline. But your opponent can, I think, play around it to a degree. But it definitely makes the deck really strong. It's definitely a card that if you do limit it to 1, it does make Royal Knights work that much harder to say, okay, we don't have that huge safety net of Omeka coming out, wiping the board essentially and giving me a fresh reset.
Yeah, it's like my logic for it was just that I don't feel like Royal Knights should have a get out of jail free card that has little to no counterplay. That was like my idea.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely a card that you have to see, and you're right. You can play around it. Like you can bottom deck it. Like it's specifically an on deletion effect that places it where it needs to go. So if you have other forms of removal that isn't deletion, you can definitely get around it.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just it's a card that like I think threatens more potential of like being more busted as we get more Royal Knight support and doing some other stuff.
Totally. And then the 2 option cards, Last Guardian, Royal Knights of the Purge, again, just help make your plays so much more efficient, I guess, if you want to put it that way. Purge lets you basically bring out an Omni X for free.
Yeah.
Lets you get rid of 2 bodies potentially, or 3 for that matter, if it stays on the board with Last Guardian. And also Purge lets you tuck an Omeka, right? Like you can just basically tuck anything. It doesn't have to be a Royal Knights card. So tucking Omeka is totally a viable play off of Purge. And late game, this is a 3-cost option just to set you up for another aggressive play. Last Guardian being able to keep your Omni X's out on the field, which is super annoying, right? Like having an Omni X that is both a big blocker during your turn and then during
raid and piercing.
Exactly. Like with raid and piercing, it's just like, come on, man. Like, stop.
Omni X opened up a lot of aggression for Royal Knights where they didn't need to rely on the BT13 Omni play anymore.
And the security the security effect is also really good, right? Being able to play out on Omeka or Cool Boy can be pretty game changing as well.
I can see a world where they hit this instead of Omeka to try and slow down the Omeka like free play and get rid of some of the protections to make the deck a little bit more vulnerable. I could absolutely see that.
Yeah.
There's another thing to touch on for Royal Knights too. I actually saw an interesting idea that I didn't consider, but someone suggested choice restricting Alpha or Yukon mode from Yggdrasil or King Grazel.
Oh, sure.
Which initially I was like, I don't know about that, and then I was like, I was thinking about it more, and I'm like, you know what? It is like a turn 2, like 1 drop minus 15k until the end of your opponent's turn, like big guy that can just also gain memory, and like also threatens like DNA and ace plays. Like it does a lot. It does do a lot in the deck.
Yeah.
So there is a world where I could see that as well, potentially getting. I don't think we'll see it, but there's a world that I can imagine it happening. I guess is a better way to put it.
It's tough, right? Because, I mean, before we kind of get onto the rest of the video, it's like a lot of the cards that we're talking about, I mean, Royal Knight stuff aside, right? Like Ruin Mode, Sakuya X, like these are like 1 or 2 ofs, or Yukon Ace also, probably like a 2 of in Royal Knights for the most part. Some people do run 3, but restricting it from like 2 to 1, it's interesting. You know, we're at a state of the game where like, even though it doesn't change much, it's still a viable conversation. Right, which I think it just goes to show how powerful these cards are. And I think after talking about the big 3 here, unless there's something else about Royal Knights you wanted to throw on there.
No, that's it. I think the only thing I would say, like the least, is like I think Royal Knights probably has the best chance out of the big 3 of getting away without getting hit. I think it's the smallest offender. I think the biggest reason that we'd actually see it get hit would be because if they hit Megidra and Sakuya, they kind of need to hit Royal Knights as well because it might just start running away with the game.
Yeah, exactly. And I think some of the last few cards that we're going to talk about are sort of on that vein, right? And I think the biggest, I don't even want to call it a dark horse because we've seen it do so much damage already, and that deck is Purple Hybrid, right? I think if you hit decks like Megidra and Sakuya, Purple Hybrid becomes a very viable option to be like top of the pile. It has a very good matchup against the spread. Very, very fast, very consistent, and despite already getting hit by the ban list with Jack Raid and the Matt Ishida being yeeted, at least Jack Raid's still there at 1, but Matt's completely gone, like, Purple Hybrid is still pulling results consistently. And I think the card that allows for that is Velgar, in my opinion. I know some folks make a case to say, well, Dusk is the problem, not Velgar. But I think Dusk is really nothing without Velgar. You know, it can do some cheeky things and like change your color, you know, and then like the inheritable to I believe it's Play Out a Tamer is still pretty solid. but the whole combo relies on Velgar. So if you restrict Velgar, for example, to 1, it definitely makes purple hybrid players, again, have to work that much harder and maybe shift focus more towards, like, quote unquote, the classic, like, Lowy, Rihi, Kaiser sort of mesh of purple hybrid.
Yeah, because you can't. If I think restricting to 1 doesn't kill the deck because you only really need 1 Velgar, but I think that's really that's all you need to do is just make it less consistent.
Yeah.
So they don't have it necessarily like turn 2 every time to just go crazy with it.
Right. They have to work a little harder to get into Velgar.
Yeah, I still think there's also a world where we could see BT7 Koichi get hit as well. Because of the
I can absolutely see that too.
But I think you're right. I think Velgar is the biggest enabler because he does. I mean, his end of attack is like the thing. Like that's the scariest thing. Being able to just delete any level 4 or lower purple Digimon card to then delete all of your opponent's Digimon at the lowest level is just crazy. Like that's insane. And he typically swings like against most decks at like at least like 13k plus.
13k, and you know, on top of that too, right? You mill your opponent out most of the time as well late game. You can just say, look, I don't have to check all the security. You know, I'll just mill everybody out.
Just keep milling.
Yeah. So I would be curious to see, just because I do think if purple hybrid has that window, it can definitely sneak through. And then speaking of sneaking through, my children over here, Ko and Sayo and Ko, Galaxy is really strong. I think, you know, both Toolbox and Pure Galaxy. I'm a little biased, I know that. But at the same vein, in the testing I've done, and just like talking to other people too, like I think Galaxy has a spot if these 3 do take a little bit of a hit. EX5 Koen Style is definitely one of the big enablers. It's the best tamer for the deck still by far. I think though, if you kill the tamer, the deck folds a bit to a degree.
If you hit Ko and Sayo, I think it folds.
Yeah, I think it folds 100%. So which is why I think Sayo and Ko is a bit more, I think, of a reasonable hit. Because you still run it in Pure Galaxy now. I'm running it as a 2 of in my build. Some folks will do like anywhere between 1 and 2 for that like cheeky Grace Nova DNA to start your opponent's turn, which is really nasty. But I think the reason this card is on the chopping block is just its potentiality to create very unhealthy and toxic turn loops that don't necessarily like win you the game. It's stupid. And it just breaks all the game mechanics.
Some of the old one used to, and some of them still do. They're just a lot harder to get to. I think the problem, because I'm gonna be honest, I think your Ko and Sayo's fine. I know you as a Galaxy Bear are very worried, and I think Ko and Sayo's fine. I think that with the new pieces they gave it, for making the deck feel more viable for its tribal is what they wanted to do. I think that was the goal.
Yeah.
And I don't think they would hit Ko and Sayo because that would just then undermine that. And I don't think that the toolbox, like, I think toolbox didn't get any new tools that makes it like better than tribal right now. Like, I think tribal is good enough to keep up and do things.
Hey, arguably tribal might even be better at this point.
And I agree. I think it is too. I think having that protection consistently is very important. And you can still toolbox a couple of things in there, but I mean, that's always what I wanted to play when I initially, because I think if you remember back during EX5 days, I was really excited for Galaxy, and then it was Cheeks, and then I didn't like the toolbox variant, so I never went back to it.
Yeah.
And at this point, I've just strayed too far into darker territories. But for Sayo and Ko, I think any card that has multiple instances of providing a infinite turn loop where your opponent is literally locked out of the game, like they cannot play, it's only your game to play and your game to win, like it shouldn't be in the game.
It shouldn't exist.
It shouldn't be in the game. I think Galaxy can get away without it. Yes, you're gonna hurt on trying to do Grace Nova plays. Ideally, like, I'm trying to think of a way they could make it work, and I was like, my initial thought was like, what if they did regulation battle rules specifically for this card to make it so it could only be run in decks that contain, like, let's say like 40 or more cards that have the Light Fang or Night Contract.
I think at that point, though, you might as well just hit it.
But at that point, yeah, exactly. It's like you're trying to find too many ways to fix this card. And realistically, we just need a different means for them to do what they want. without relying on this guy. And I think the Ace provides a decent means of doing things because you have that end of turn DNA that doesn't rely on Sayo and Kai.
Correct. Yeah.
Like the Ace gives you, yes, you have to drop it for 7 if you're going to do it that way, but you have a means of doing that now rather than having to rely on its start of opponent's turn effect. So it's just, I think it needs to go. I think it just needs to be permanently banned because some other loop's going to come out at some point that Bandai's not going to prep for, and then they're going to have to do something about it then. So might as well just...
They're always reacting to this card. So at this point, if they're always having to react to something that it has created, multiple instances of that, I think requires a straight up ban.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just, and I can't, and it's like the same thing I said for Ruin Mode. I can't imagine it's fun to design around. Yeah. Like anytime you design a rookie that gains memory when it on plays, or any sort of effect that like gains memory from something being on play during opponent's turn, you have to consider this card if it's blue.
Sure. Yeah. And, so, sort of any other like closing thoughts, or are we kind of sort of wrapped up?
No, I think we covered everything pretty succinctly as much as we could. We had a lot of cards to go over, and we did it pretty efficiently. I think.
And to your vein, right? Like a quick, they're probably not even gonna watch this video, but anyways, right? Like, shout out to the game designers, right? I think us as a community, because we play a lot, we compete a lot, we are passionate about the game. There's always a lot of strong feelings about certain cards, certain decisions, whatever it may be. But like to your point, right? Like, I can't imagine designing cards with a card pool of like thousands already in existence and being like, this one card could potentially be broken with like a card that we have 10 sets ago, particularly in a game that doesn't have set rotation. So I mean, yes, there are going to be flaws, there's going to be breaks in the system, but I mean, I think our game designers have done a phenomenal job thus far in getting the game to where it is, and it sounds like they've got a great plan moving forward. So I mean, I think these things are necessary. Ban list, restriction lists show that the game is being looked at in a healthy way. They're trying to reassess things. So I'm excited to see what they have to churn out for us later this month. I'm excited to see how sort of competitive play wraps around and formulates. EX10 is going to be really fun just around the corner, right? As I believe it comes out the day of like Nats and stuff. So like I think it's going to be really interesting to see once this whole list takes place and we can see the new meta take form. So I'm all for it. Like I said, check out our survey, which will have sort of your votes of what you want restricted or what you feel like is going to be on the restriction/ban list. We'll definitely do a reaction video comparing the results and kind of talking over stuff. And yeah, let us know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Let us know if you feel like we missed anything. And thank y'all for tuning in. We appreciate all the support, and hopefully we catch you on that flippy flip. Bye-bye.